There are new signs that the sham audit of the 2020 vote in Arizona, which is central to the fever dreams of the ex-president and his supporters of the big lie, is set to drag on for many more months. The Washington Post reports, quote, nearly 2.1 million ballots and hundreds of tabulating machines at the center of a controversial Republican-commissioned review of the 2020 election in Arizona were packed up in trucks Thursday and moved again. It was the fourth time the ballots and machines used in Arizona's Maricopa County have been moved since April. Arizona's Secretary of State Katie Hobbs tells the Post that the delay in wrapping up the audit might be intended to financially benefit groups that have been raising money from private donors to supplement the $150,000 in taxpayer dollars earmarked for the audit. Joining us now is Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, who's also a candidate for governor in Arizona. Madam Secretary, first, is there no recourse to regain possession of these ballots so that they're not moved again and potentially tampered with?
Well, the recourse would be between the Maricopa County and the Senate, who has ordered this audit. But really, you know, this is exactly why we've been fighting against this from the get-go. These are not experts. They are making this up as they go along. It's not a real audit. They don't know what they're doing, and they're not taking their role right now as custodian of these ballots and equipment seriously. And that's very clear from everything we've seen.
And in fact, your ability to do your job is being hampered by law. I want to read from the NPR reporting on this. Arizona Republicans stripped some election power from Democratic Secretary of State. Arizona Republicans have stripped the Secretary of State's office, currently held by a Democrat, of the right to defend the state's election laws in court or choose not to. A change enacted as part of Arizona's newly signed budget. The spending blueprint that Governor Ducey signed into law Wednesday declares that the Attorney General, currently a position occupied by Republican Mark Burnich, has sole authority over election-related litigation. We've talked about this before, but with the Supreme Court upholding Arizona's voter restrictions, it seems that these voter suppression laws and laws to change the arbiters of the vote count are steamrolling through unchecked through 48 states. I wonder if you think that Democrats in Washington are taking that threat to our democracy seriously enough.
Well, I think what we're seeing with these power grabs across the country and this Supreme Court decision just continues to underline the urgency with which the federal government must act to enact protections for voters across the country to continue to protect their access to the ballot, because they are being chipped away by all of these moves and now by the Supreme Court decision yesterday.
There's been a lot of reporting. We've asked you about your security and safety, and we always want to hear if there's any update. But there's news that this is taking a real toll, and that the country's one of our blessings is people willing to volunteer to help to work in our elections, that they're quitting after being targets of threats and targets of threatened violence. What is sort of the degree of the crisis in this country? It feels like a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 to me.
That, unfortunately, is one of the consequences of the things that we've seen piling up over the last several months since the election, is the toll on election workers and them leaving the field. And not only the seasoned election administrators who work full-time in these offices, but we're concerned about the next time it comes to recruiting poll workers and the folks who work in the tabulation centers for the next election, that we're going to have trouble finding those folks, because it's not just the election administrators that are being targeted, but all the way down to poll workers, which are seasonal workers who step up to help make sure that our democracy can work.
Madam Secretary, what do you sort of understand that maybe people who don't spend time down the right-wing media echo chambers don't about how the count in Maricopa is being used by the ex-president to sort of further his delusions about election fraud?
Well, I can't emphasize enough, and I think I've done it every time I've come on here, Nicole, that this is not a real audit. I know that you know that. And so what we're seeing is they are doing things that are based on these conspiracy theories. There's bamboo fibers or watermarks or different folds that don't make sense or whatever. I mean, none of this is real or based on how elections actually work. And the former president is continuing to ramp up the rhetoric. These folks are starting to believe he's going to be back in the White House in the fall, and it is frankly dangerous. I mean, we saw what happened when this kind of rhetoric was going on after the election before January 6th. And what are these same folks going to do when he's not back in the White House, as they're all being told to believe will happen right now?